I am not at all going to get on it. If they were to take a guy like Luther Burden at 31,
sign me up.
I mean, look, man, you got to get explosive. You have to. You got to find more explosiveness in this offense. If they walk out with explosiveness on offense and a D tackle who they believe can play a big role this year, to me, that's a great draft.
It's That Football Show here on KC Sports Network. Tucker Franklin hanging out with Matt Verderame here on a draft week edition of That Football Show. We finally made it, folks. We finally made it. You're listening to this on the day before the NFL draft. Absolutely incredible that we made it, and absolutely incredible is Holiday Distillery and Ben Holiday Bottled in Bond Bourbon. I'm going to be out there on Thursday, on Friday, on Saturday, and on Sunday. You can join me on Sunday as well if you are a paid subscriber to the KCSN Chiefs newsletter. Check that email. Go check that out. We will be out there hanging out, being live every single pick for the draft. We will be live out there at Holiday Distillery. Matt, how you doing? We finally made it.
I feel like I'm about, let's see, we're recording this on Tuesday night because I didn't feel like waking up on Wednesday. In full disclosure. Yeah. I feel like we're about 100 hours away from, I'm going to be doing the old Tim Robbins in Shawshank when he comes out of that pipe of shit and he just looks up to the heavens. His hands are open and the rain's coming down. That's just going to be me, but like Culver's. That's basically what my life is going to be. Sarah, I got a babysitter and everything for Saturday night. I'm like, listen, second this thing's over, I'm going out and I'm getting ripped up. I'm going to a bar. I'm gonna get some food. I'm gonna turn on, have the NHL and NBA playoffs on. Yep. And I'm just gonna tell them, listen, keep bringing a Crown and Sprite every 10 minutes until I pass out, and then bring one every 15. I am ready for the draft to be over. That being said, I enjoy the actual draft itself. Like, yes, the never-ending talk about it. At some point, your eyes just kind of glaze over. But now that it's actually going to be, I'm actually excited for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And now that we're there, it's like, all right, we've made it. You know, it's like when you set sail on a long car ride and you're like, man, I can't wait till we get there. It's going to be great. Boys weekend playing golf. And it's like a 12-hour ride and you're in the car with your boys. Like, this is great. We got, we got all day. And then you're in like hour 7 and you're like, oh my God, we're still in Iowa. Right. But then you finally get there and you get that second win. I feel like that's where we're at now.
Iowa was a good one. I thought I was going to budge in with Cleveland. Then you hit Cleveland and you're like, oh boy, still got ways to go.
That's tough.
See however many places we'll sideswipe. Look, I think on this program, if you guys have come to know this show, we're going to sideswipe plenty on this show. Little programming announcement. We will not be having a podcast on Saturday, obviously, because of the NFL draft. We will be live. KCSN will be from Thursday. As soon as the draft goes live, we go live all the way through Saturday. We'll then also have the live recap show on Sunday. So we have you covered content-wise in terms of the NFL draft. Don't worry about that. Stay logged in, like and subscribe here as well. Matt and I will be back like the good old days, only once a week for us here. This next week coming up, we'll be back next Wednesday, and then we'll roll on into your regular scheduled program. But wanted to get you a heads up as we are rolling into draft week here. Plenty of content that you will have to be able to shove in your ear holes as you are maybe required to work on Thursday and Friday, but we will make sure that you guys have plenty of stuff to listen to, especially on Friday, while you are trying to not work. We'll have plenty of content for you. Best players available podcast. We'll have obviously the instant reaction pick podcast, everything like that. All kinds of videos going up here, including highlights as well of the player that the Chiefs do eventually pick. Well, hopefully the player the Chiefs eventually pick at pick 31, because Matt, there are plenty of stories to dive into. I think Albert Breer your colleague did a phenomenal job with some of his nuggets heading into draft week. And honestly, draft week Monday is one of my favorite days because it seems like everyone's like, all right, let's unload the clip. Everything we got, we are putting out there. And there's some really good nuggets in there. I want to start with Shadur Sanders because while it doesn't pertain to the Chiefs, It kind of does in terms of how the board is going to fall and where Shadur Sanders goes in this. Albert Breer says Shadur Sanders entered this draft cycle as the most interesting figure in this class, and with the draft looming, the Colorado quarterback has gone wire to wire with that title. He says that he thinks there could be a question that Shadur Sanders does not go in the first round. Your thoughts on that, Matt?
I think it's very possible. Look, I am not Albert Breer. He is about the most well-sourced man alive. I've had the pleasure of going to the combine with Albert Breer and walking down the street, and Albert anyone on the street, not team, goes, "Hey, so who the hell is that? Oh, Panthers assistant equipment guy. Known him way back." Like, okay. No, I talked to a bunch of people down in Florida at the Breakers during the owners' meetings who would tell you that they thought that he was a second-round talent. And now, does that mean he's going to go in the second round? No. But there were people with legitimate, reservations, I guess you would say. People who were saying, hey, look, I think he's got some talent, but his arm's not special. His athleticism's not special. It wasn't like Colorado was an offensive powerhouse, and he had Travis Hunter on that team. So
that helps.
What does it look like? And the other question, I think it's a fair question. It's like, look, what is it like when he's not with his dad? Because there is some, obviously a lot of familiarity, but there's also a little bit of insulation with that. What happens when he's just on his own in an NFL locker room, and there's not that buffer, if you will. I saw a quote that's starting to make the rounds here. Tom Pelissero had it in his article on NFL.com, and there's a lot of quotes about many different players, to be clear. But he had this quote from an NFC scouting director who said, when you hear all the anecdotal stories about the person, it's not that he's a bad kid. He has been so insulated. There's that word again. It's going to be a culture shock when he really learns how a locker room really operates and how it really works inside a building. He's had so much input on the offensive game plan, who the coach is, and everything's been catered to him. When you walk into one of those NFL buildings, no one's going to give a shit about that. No one cares who your dad is. You're going to have to end up fighting through some adversity. The plays aren't going to be called exactly the plays aren't going to be called to exactly what you want to run. Even last year with Shermer, a lot of mistakes he made was stuff that he just decided to call the line of scrimmage himself. And there's no recourse of him making those decisions. Whereas in a real locker room, you make a couple of those decisions and you get your ass ripped so bad that you never want to do it again. That is a very long quote that Pelissero got, but I could tell you again, the word that stuck out because it was the exact same word somebody said to me in Florida. It was not the NFC scouting director is not the person who said it to me, so I know it was a separate person. Insulated. I would guess that's a fairly common word said about him. And then this quote, which I thought was wow. A longtime NFL assistant coach said his time with Sanders was, quote, the worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. He's so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates. But the biggest thing is he's not that good. And then an AFC executive said it didn't go great in our interview. He wants to dictate what he's going to do and what's best for him. He makes you feel small. It's not great. It's not great. But look, quarterbacks are the premium. Everybody knows that, right? But I would think I am very curious to see if Jackson Dart goes off the board before Shadur Sanders.
Yeah.
I'm very, very curious. I don't know that I think he should. But I also don't think it's impossible.
So here, let me tie this to the Chiefs in. If you're thinking, Tucker, what you're talking about Shadur Sanders, what does this have
to do with the show? It's not that Chiefs show.
It's a great point. That is a great point. I know our audience though. They want to know about the Chiefs.
That's fair.
But let me tie this to the Chiefs because I do think that when you're in the Chiefs position of, wanting a best player available, if the best player available on the board is a quarterback, you're not going to take them. And the more teams ahead of you take quarterbacks, that means that's a position that, you're good. Brett Veach confirmed actually on his press conference that they're not interested in taking a first-round quarterback. I don't know if you caught that, Matt, but he did confirm that.
I was worried.
Yeah, good thing that he came out and confirmed that. But look, it is lying season, so who knows? Maybe he's trying to set a smokescreen there. But the more quarterbacks go, the better players that the Chiefs actually won and actually want to draft will fall down, right? I mean, kind of last year it worked out with Xavier Worthy going to the spot where the Chiefs felt comfortable trading up to get him because all those quarterbacks went early on. Because all those quarterbacks went early on, other players are able to fall down the board. Now, if Shadur Sanders starts to slide down the board here, Albert Breer says if Sanders gets past the Giants, I'm not sure what happens next. And I think that's really interesting because the Giants are going to be faced with. I think it's not a hard decision for the Giants, truthfully, for me, because Tennessee, it seems like they're taking Cam Ward. That is almost all but certain that they are going to take Cam Ward. Sure, whatever. Cleveland Browns are almost certainly going to take Travis Hunter, and I think that's the right move. Honestly, if I'm the Tennessee Titans, I'd probably take Travis Hunter. But that's just me.
That's here nor there. Yeah.
Right. Hard to have Travis Hunter and then have Will Levis as your quarterback, though I will say that. Cleveland Browns getting Travis Hunter, they're kind of in the same situation there. But then the Giants are going to be faced with pick number 3, Shadur Sanders or Abdul Carter. I don't know if it's that hard of a decision, Matt.
I think it's not that difficult, and I think it's going to be Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
Look, we did 10 bold predictions over at SI for the draft. That was a piece I was asked to write, and I actually wrote that like the Pats will get Abdul Carter at 4 because some team will just trade up and get somebody at 3. Now, it's called bold predictions for a reason. The more likely scenario is that Abdul Carter goes at 3. I think this draft, unless there is a trade, I think the first 4 picks are going to be Ward at 1, Sharpie, put it in Sharpie. Number 2, Travis Hunter, put it in Sharpie. Number 3, Abdul Carter, put it in like magic marker. And then 4, I think it's Will Campbell.
That's where the draft starts. Pick 4 is where the draft starts.
Yeah, and I would even argue maybe it's like the 5th pick with Jacksonville, where Jacksonville's just got like 800 needs and they spin a wheel and we just see what happens. I mean, it could be Ashton Genty. It could be, which I feel, I got to be honest, and I think Genty's amazing. I feel like that's ridiculous for Jacksonville. Like, that's the need right now. Like, you're trying to fill, you have Bigsby and ETN. Like, I don't know. But the Raiders, I think if he's there, I think they're going to.
I was about to say, I think he makes way more sense for the Raiders than he does in Jacksonville.
I do too. I think Mason Graham makes a lot of sense for Jacksonville. But look, the point is, I have a real hard time seeing the Giants passing on Carter. I just don't, and I know the way the Giants organization is, the way that brass is. That is an old school building. If Shadur Sanders, if any of those people in the Giants building feel that way about Shadur Sanders, that we just read some of those quotes, they are not taking Shadur Sanders.
Correct.
That is not going to happen. That is not some like new age, like, that's all right, kind of like that's not going to happen.
I think this is really interesting. This sentence that Albert Breer writes here. He says, it's interesting too, because I've had a couple of guys say to me that the only way Sanders will go in the first round is if an owner gets involved. I think that's interesting when it comes to Shadur Sanders. Also, so we talk about him at the Giants pick. I think another pick to watch for him would obviously be the Saints at 9 with the uncertainty around Derek Carr. I don't know if I'm totally sold that the Saints are going to go quarterback. I don't know what you've heard about the Saints at 9. What do you think they're going to do there?
I think Sanders is the biggest wild card in the draft.
Right.
I think the Saints are the biggest wild card in the draft from a team perspective.
Ooh.
Like, so they lost Paulson and Debo going into this offseason. They lost him to the Giants.
Yep.
And they trade a lot of more. Mm-hmm. Like, they could definitely take, Will Johnson. And I think if you're the Saints, you're pretty happy with that.
Be a great pick, yeah.
And it's fine. Now, right now, you're sitting there with Kool-Aid McKinstry and Isaac Yiadom and Alante Taylor as your 3 corners. I'm going to go ahead and say that's not right. So could take a corner. Ryan Ramczyk just retired. So you could take a tackle. I know they have Trevor Penning. I get it. Trevor Penning has not been good to this point in his career.
No.
So listen, I mean, you go a lot of ways. Derek Carr may never play another game with the Saints.
That's what they're saying.
And then like Mickey and Loomis, like I've never seen anybody with more lives than Mickey and Loomis. They're fucking terrible every year. And Mickey and Loomis is just like, it's cool. We're 90 million over the cap in 2029. And it's great. Bring him back. Look, I've heard a lot that they're interested in Jackson Dart. That's been the big talk, is that they really like Dart. Now the question would be, would they take Dart at 9, or would they trade back into the latter part of the first round for Jackson Dart?
Mm.
You know, I almost think I think that's the play if you're going to do it. And then get a guy like a Will Johnson at 9, or if you really like a tackle or something like that. But
let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Saints, though, whether it's the first or the second round, they're compelled to take a quarterback here.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not pretend as though, you know, all of a sudden, Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener are going to step in here and get it done. They're not good. Okay, they're not good. So I think in that regard, if you're the Saints, if you like a guy like Sanders, you're going to take him at 9. If you like Dart, you might be able to get him later. And then maybe they even like a guy like Milroe. I mean, Milroe is fascinating from the standpoint. Kind of reminds you of Jalen Hurts. Well, where is Kellen Moore coming from?
Right, Philly.
You know? Like, so I think there's a lot of intrigue with them. I think they'll take a quarterback in one of the first 2 picks. The question is like who and where.
Your colleague Connor Orr did a mock draft
I got a
today.
lot of colleagues, apparently.
Yeah, you do have a lot of colleagues.
Connor, they got him to do it, huh? All right, good.
Jalen Milroe to the Steelers is actually what he had in his mock
Connor
draft.
loves Jalen Milroe, so that's not shocking. Okay.
Yeah.
Connor
so
drafted for like just himself, just to hang out, play video games with. Connor loves Jalen Milroe. Absolutely.
That's so funny. That's so funny. No, I mean he's a fun watch. Like he's definitely he's a fun college quarterback.
High ceiling, low floor. Like the classic, he could be terrible or he could be really good. Say one thing about him, he's a freak show athletically.
He's an incredible athlete. Yes.
Unbelievable 100%. Athlete.
He was very fun to watch at Alabama. There were some times there, especially not this season that just happened, but the season before that in 2023. There's a couple times where he really won games for that Alabama team. And that was good to see. And the Steelers are another interesting team that probably want a quarterback at 21. Or maybe they don't want a quarterback at 21 because is that going to mess with the Aaron Rodgers thing? I don't know. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is just going to decide not to go to Pittsburgh because they drafted a quarterback. But it's Aaron Rodgers, and he very well could. He very well could decide to do that. I don't know what the Steelers are going to be up to at 21.
I think look, here's the other part of the Steelers thing that's fascinating. Okay. If you're a team that really wants, like, let's say Sanders gets past 9.
Yep.
He's probably going to slide pretty big. Okay. And let's say Dart is also on that board and we're getting a 17, 18. Does some team go all the way up to get past Pittsburgh? You know, I mean, and does Denver trade back? Denver's at 20.
Right.
Bengals at 17. Seahawks at 18, I believe. I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. Tampa at 19.
Yep.
Like, are any of those teams willing to trade back to like 35?
Look, you mentioned you talk about a lot. Let's talk about those teams after the Saints that need a quarterback, right? Because 10 is Chicago, they don't really need a quarterback. No, Niners, nope. 12, the Cowboys,
they're not going to take one.
They're not going to take one. Could they use one? Probably. The Dolphins, they're not going to take a quarterback.
Yeah, they're another team. They're the one team I will tell you though. There have been people in the league who have said that to me. Like.
Interesting.
I've had 2-3 different people say to me, unprovoked, like, don't be surprised if there's a quarterback on the board and Miami shocks the world and takes one. I still would say it's very unlikely.
Yeah.
But I've had 2 or 3 people independently say that to me. Like, hey, man, look at Tua's deal. There's a lot of wiggle room there. And, they know they're capped out. And they've got to change things, and that would kind of reset their books, and it would give McDaniel new life and all this stuff. So that would be, the Dolphins. I wonder if the Dolphins did that. Would the Falcons immediately call them? Be like, well done, good, good,
good job.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you done good. You done
Great
good.
pick.
Like
That's funny.
and then like with it, I'll give you the other one here because we're gonna get to it. You're about to say them. The Colts.
The Colts are an interesting one. I think it came out. Was it one of these days that Chris Ballard was like, Chris Ballard is him and Holland around taking a quarterback.
Chris
And
Ballard's
just
in
like,
deep emotional pain. Right.
It's like, dude, can you commit to a quarterback? Just a single quarterback, please.
I love that he's like, I don't know who the hell's starting. I don't know. Like, we might have 3 different guys. He's like, we're gonna need them both at some point. And you're like, you don't have a quarterback.
God,
I gotta tell you the truth, and this was what makes me wonder with them. I don't give a shit what they say publicly. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
When you're bringing in Daniel Jones and you're not going out and saying, like, look, Anthony Richardson is clearing away, no doubt about it, our starting quarterback.
Right.
And then Ballard actually does publicly say, well, we're going to need both guys at some point. You don't have a quarterback.
Right.
If Daniel Jones is good enough to be a guy who you're like, yeah, we're going to need him at some point, like, to do what exactly? Wear a headset?
Right.
Like, if it's any more than that, you got a big problem. And that is what makes me wonder. If you're Steichen and you're Ballard, let's call it what it is. If you go 6-11 this year and Anthony Richardson sucks, you're all fired.
Yeah.
You're all out the door.
Yeah.
So if Sanders is sitting there or Dart's sitting there and they really like one of those guys, like who gives you as an organization more upside? One of those guys or like Zabel out of North Dakota State?
Yeah, that's true.
Like who gives a shit? Oh, great. We got a guard now for the next regime to come in and have because he's blocking for a guy who completes 38% of his passes like it's 1928. Okay. Like, what are we doing? Like to me, none of this matters if you don't have a quarterback, if you're Indy.
Right.
But to the point, though, to your point, you get past the Saints, and yeah, look, like the Dolphins aren't likely to take a quarterback. Most people don't think the Colts will, even though I think they should. Right. And then it's Atlanta. Nope. Arizona. Actually, never rule out Atlanta.
Atlanta might.
Atlanta might be sitting there like, nobody's going to see coming.
Let's trade up to 9 to take this quarterback.
That'd be unbelievable. just again.
And then what's even funnier is the Falcons have like 5 picks this draft. They don't have any picks.
They're trading next year's picks. It's like, hey, we got to keep enough though to make sure we can do it again next year. Keep the bit going. But yeah, I mean, Atlanta, you wouldn't think. Arizona, no. The Bengals, obviously, no. Seattle, I wouldn't think so. Tampa, no. Denver, no. And then you get to Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, unless it's Miami or Indy, and nobody really thinks that they're likely to do that,
mm-hmm.
Man, you got a long way to go after you get past New Orleans.
Is he going to be in Green Bay?
Sanders? Dart's not. He was invited
Dart was originally going to, right? And then he backed out.
Yeah, which I believe also is true of Josh Simmons. Let me see.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize he backed out. Josh Simmons.
I believe that is true. Will he be in the green room? Shadur Sanders.
Live lookup.
Live lookup. That's right. That's what you do when you're a professional. You don't prepare and you do this live.
Yep.
He says he'll be at his dad's house in Boulder.
Oh
no, I'm sorry. Not in Boulder, but he'll be at his dad's house. Waiting for he will not be at the draft, apparently.
Well, that's probably a good idea because we don't want a Will Levis situation on our hands, right? Where he was sitting there in Kansas City forever, and then he left. He wasn't the first pick. He was like the second pick at day 2, right? Because Joey Porter was actually ended up being the second pick, or the first pick of the first round or second round, excuse me. And then I think it was Will Levis, but he left. He didn't stay for day 2. He left for day 1, and then his girlfriend broke up with him, and that's the only reason why his girlfriend broke up with him. There's I don't
even remember that.
Yeah, don't look up Will Levis video. Don't look up Will Levis video. Don't do that.
His girlfriend just left him after that?
I don't know if it wasn't directly after that.
Said he's second round garbage and just took off? Wow.
She shouldn't have been with him in the first place.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised he wasn't just chugging mayo in the green room like an animal.
Yeah, like an imbecile. So okay, I want to go back to what you mentioned about the Saints maybe wanting to trade back in because the Kansas City Chiefs have picked number 31, and the board could not look very good for them. And we have talked about several times about, hey, if the board doesn't look good, just trade back. And New Orleans is a team that could be a candidate for that. New Orleans Saints have picked number 40.
Correct.
And in the second round, the Chiefs could trade back there, maybe comfortably take one of the Ohio State running backs. Personally, I like Quinshon Judkins better than the two out of the two. I think he is a very fun running back. You could take a dynamic offensive weapon back there. Depending on how the board falls, it'll be interesting to see that. New Orleans maybe wanting to have one of those quarterbacks, right? If we mentioned either Jackson Dart or hell, maybe even Jalen Milroe. Maybe they can trade back up for Jalen Milroe. They want the 5th-year option on him. They can do that. I don't know. Brett Veach doesn't really like to trade back. I think he said in his press conferences there was one time he wanted to trade back, and I think we all know what draft that was.
Yes. I picture Veach as he's accepting the fact he's trading back, just smoking an entire pack of cigarettes, like with the filters cut out. just beyond furious, he's trading back.
God.
All right, so let's take this a step further, like professionals. While I'm eating, what are these? Whopper mini robin eggs, like a real adult.
I thought you were eating like almonds or something. Nope.
Kissel's really overpaying me at this point. This is a disaster. All right. Chiefs are at pick 31. If you use the Rich Hill draft chart, that pick's worth 190 points. The Saints at 40, that pick's worth 149. So you have a difference of 41. The Saints also on pick 93, which happens to be worth 42.
Yep, I think that'll work.
So you're basically looking at 40 and 93 for 31. And I got to tell you, if you're the Chiefs, if you don't love the board, that's pretty spicy because you would then have 40, 63, 66, 93, 95. You would be.
You better love the day 2 people. You better love some guys in day 2.
They cut to the war room of Veach, and Veach is just like a prairie fire with all the cigarettes in his mouth. Yeah. He's got one of those green visors on that they wear like at the blackjack table. It's like, all right, here we go. Spagnuolo's just plowing through one of those like those like the doggy bags they give you from the restaurant, where it's like in the tin foil thing. It just I just picture Spag as just a heavy eater. Like I feel like the sauce is everywhere. But yeah, if they made that trade, okay. So if you're wondering, what would it look like? 40 and 93 would probably be where you're at. Now, if you went to the old Jimmy Johnson model, just to give everybody,
I wonder though too, if the Chiefs know they're trading up for a quarterback, was the quarterback tax enacted? Like, do the Chiefs be like, all right, well, you're gonna have to give us a little bit more since it's quarterback?
Well, maybe also because you're getting 5th-year option out of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, now the Jimmy Johnson model says the Chiefs pick is worth 600 points. The Saints pick 40 is 500. 93, they have it as worth 128. I still think for the Chiefs, you'd make them pay that because their next pick is 112, and that pick's worth 70.
Yeah. You need the second and the third.
And I'd be like, listen, you're giving us 93. That's what's happening. And if you're the Saints and you want the quarterback bad enough, probably going to do it.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Listen, I absolutely think if you're the Chiefs, if you're looking at another team, let's see here. So in round 2,
New York could do the same thing. I think the Giants could do the same thing if they like a quarterback. If they take Abdul Carter at 3, they could maybe want to try to trade back in.
They're at 34. They also have 2 third round picks. Right, they are at 65 and 99, and so to move up, they would probably give the Chiefs 30. Well, they would give them 34, and then it would probably be let's see, because all that would be different at that point is 15 points. They'd probably give them a 5th and a 7th as well.
Mm-hmm.
So not as enticing, but you're also only moving back, 3 spots.
A couple spots,
so
yeah.
You're picking up a couple extra picks. Because really when you look at it, Tennessee's, they're going to have the quarterback. Jacksonville has one. The Raiders aren't taking the quarterback. New England, no. Chicago, no. So it's either probably going to be Cleveland or the Giants from 33 and 34.
Cleveland's a good one, yeah.
Or New Orleans at 40. Cleveland, just to put a bow on this little part of the segment here, Cleveland would probably be giving the Chiefs 33 and 179 and 216 in the 6th round. Like that would basically
Yeah.
match up. So like a couple of late picks, which again, you're moving back 2 spots. See, but if I'm the Chiefs, I wouldn't do that because to me, if I like a guy 31, I like a guy 33, and I want the 5th-year option. Like the 5th-year option is worth more than those picks. I'd say the same thing about the Giants. Now the Saints are different. If I can get 5 picks on day 2, it might have to be a bonanza, and I'll live without having the 5th round. Like that or 5th-year option, that would be insane. The Chiefs just picking everybody and their mother in the 2nd round. The Chiefs would have 5 picks between 40 and 95. Like they just
that's insane.
People around the Kansas City metro area just be pissing their pants because they wouldn't be able to get up to go to the bathroom during the draft. They can't go. They're on the clock again in 3 more minutes.
From our content perspective, we usually do so. Like during the live show, we like record a podcast in the middle of the live show so we can automatically post the live reaction.
Not Friday.
Nope, that is going to be one podcast. It is going to roll into each other. They are
like, I feel like pick 40 Veach would be like, you have the suit and tie on, and Chiefs media would be filming it for like some little thing they get to put out like the franchise. Pick 95 Veach would just be down to like an undershirt and like a pair of like basketball shorts, just like with cigarettes hanging out of each corner of his mouth. Take so-and-so. God, I don't even care who it is anymore.
Got the eye bags, the big eye bags underneath his eyes.
Like a 40 of like Arnold Palmer sweet tea, just like, at that point it'd be basically like a non-alcoholic pull.
Right.
I think that'd be where we're at that point. Andy would still just be Tommy Bahama in it. Like he wouldn't look any different.
No.
Might have fallen asleep at some point between picks like 50 and 75. It's fine. I think that could be all-time Chiefs television.
So we need to take a break. And then there's like offensive tackles. I want to talk about that because I think Albert Breer had some very interesting information in terms of a guy that, man, we have fed this horse, Matt. We have beat this horse to absolute death.
That horse is on Ozempic at this point.
That horse is Josh Simmons. I feel like every goddamn week we talk about this guy, but we're going to talk about him again because there's some other offensive tackles that we want to talk about as well, and where are they going to go in this draft. So we're going to take a break. On the other side, we'll talk offensive tackles. Chiefs. With the 31st pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select.
Let's go! Xavier Worthy coming to the Chiefs in round 1 makes the absolute most sense one could imagine.
As soon as I saw the body type and the way he moves, I'm like, I've seen this too often. Like, I'm just moving away from it. That's why I'd prefer the guys like Xavier Worthy because they're going to be open.
How can this team navigate the board to walk away with great value at wide receiver and at tackle?
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Are you ready to win some real cash during the basketball playoffs? Well, check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 posterizes the competition, and yeah, that includes Prize Picks. Hit all of your picks and score higher minimum payouts on Pick 6, plus even more cash if you outscore the competition. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. New players get 50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offers. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Before we dive into the offensive tackles, let's talk about the benefit raffle that we got going on right now. It's going all the way through. Matt is wearing the All Juice team hoodie in support of it. This is to support the All Juice draft workshop that we're doing here. We're going to take a lucky recipient of the Terez Paylor scholarship to the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, NFL Scouting Combine for networking, just showing them the ropes. And getting to show them kind of how everything goes down at the NFL draft, something that Terez Paylor was very fond of. And we got a lot of great prizes for you guys to win as well if you do want to help benefit this cause in memory of Terez Paylor. 10 tickets for $50, 1 ticket for $10. You can Venmo KC Sports Network. Go to givebutter.com/KCSN draft. That's givebutter.com/KCSN draft. You can win signed jerseys from Trent McDuffie, Will Shields, Brian Cook, Shamari Connor, Chris Jones, a Creed Humphrey signed mini helmet, and a Nick Bolton signed poster. Get those tickets. 10 tickets for $50, 1 ticket for $10. Winners will be announced on April 27th during our live draft recap show that we will be doing from the Holiday Distillery as well. Once again, go to givebutter.com/KCSN draft. BJ Kissel also has a video there that properly describes what we're doing with the All Juice draft workshop. So go check that out. Appreciate everybody's support so far. And that is one of my favorite things we do, Matt, on day 3 is we just kind of sell our souls for charity pretty much, as we just go absolutely bananas to get people to donate. I mean, we've done seltzer chugs. I did cartwheels. I've hunted frogs for charity. Josh Briscoe and I are thinking of some pretty fun stuff that we can do. We've shaved mustaches for the Terez Paylor scholarship, and very excited to see what we kind of cook up here on day 3 of the live stream, because it is going to get loose, Matt. I know you've seen the Chiefs picks. They have a 4th round pick, and then they don't pick again until the 7th round as of now. I will be surprised if that happens, but it's going to get loose in that 100 pick window.
That, man, there is a real good chance. And I cover the whole league for SI. Anyone who's unaware, I am going wall-to-wall coverage there for Sports Illustrated. I'm going to tell you something right now. The first time ESPN cuts to a dolphin to make the pick at the San Diego Zoo, all right, if they were to have a camera in my office, they just see me face down on the carpet. Done. Yeah. That's it. I have given up caring at that point. The only reason beyond my journalistic duties I will be watching day 3 is because our guy Matt Miller holding it down on ESPN. Believe will be there with Louis Riddick. I believe. I double check that, but I know Lou's on the broadcast. I think he's day 3, but in any event, I know Matt is, so I'll be watching him do his thing. But I got to tell you, man, when they start having walruses from Zimbabwe announcing picks,
and they're always anymore. They're picks you saw come across on the ticker 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, they're not even bothering to talk about half these guys. And then on top of that, I'm always amazed. And Green Bay, Wisconsin, I'm sure is going to give us some stuff here to talk about. But the people that are there on day 3, I have so many questions. Did you get lost? Did you just wander into this out of a brewery? Because I can understand and respect that. But if I were to interview one of these people and they're yeah, planned my whole weekend around coming to this. How much do you have to hate your family? I mean, you've got to really, it's I was watching the Cubs play the Diamondbacks on Easter Sunday at the house because I had my wife's family over. And so we put on the Cubs game.
Yeah. Right.
And, it was in a rain delay. Then they came out of it, and another rain delay. Then they came out of it again. They're playing, and they're probably still about 10,000 people at the game.
Uh-huh.
It's windy. It's miserable. Chicago in April. I was Do you know how badly you got to hate your family to be at this game right now? Like, do you know the commitment level it takes, to just be like, I don't care. I'm not going home to see mom. Not doing it. Like, rather die of frostbite. Doesn't matter. You got to have some real commitment to the bit at that point.
The Cubbies are family. Is what it really comes down to at that point.
Yeah, I got to tell you. I've been at Wrigley Field in April. Also because I hate my family. And it is it is cold as hell, man. It is brutal at that stadium when the wind's whipping and the sun's not out. Now in the summer, you can't find too many places better than Wrigley Field. But in the dead of like early spring, what a pain train that is. Oh my God.
Yeah. I can't imagine. Speaking of pain trains, let's talk about offensive linemen. Albert Breer, in his article, as I mentioned, wrote about offensive linemen, and what he said is, I'm just going to read what he said. I wouldn't be surprised if more than a quarter of the first round is devoted to offensive linemen. At tackle, I'd view LSU's Will Campbell, Missouri's Armand Mimbo, and Texas's Kelvin Banks Jr. as first-round locks. At guard, I see Alabama's Tyler Booker and North Dakota's Gray Zabel that way. After that, I think Oregon offensive tackle Josh Connerly, Joshua Simmons from Ohio State guard Donovan Jackson, who I do think can play tackle as well, and Arizona guard Jonia Savina have a great shot to land in the first round. And Georgia center Jared Wilson has an outside chance to make it 10 offensive linemen in the first 32 picks. Some of these guys wouldn't be first rounders in other years. Their chance to fall into that category in 2025 comes for a few different reasons. First, there's the class's overall quality across all positions down at the top. Second, there's the Philadelphia Eagles copycat thing at play. Third, there's not great depth after you get past the 5 tackles and 5 interior offensive linemen. So if a team wants a lineman who can help quickly, it'd be risky for them to wait until Friday, which means teams will probably choose not to. Matt, when I first read that, I anticipate is not the right word. I processed that as, offensive linemen are going early. Is kind of how I thought of that. But the more I thought about it, the more I kind of processed it a little bit more. Maybe it's not necessarily that they're going to go early, but it's that a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, if a Josh Connerly is there, right? Let's use Josh Connerly because we've used Josh Simmons in so many different scenarios, right?
Yeah.
If a guy like Josh Connerly is there, they shouldn't wait for an offensive lineman. If they want to take an offensive lineman, they should take him when he's there in the first round.
Correct. And look, Albert, as I mentioned before, is the most well-sourced person I've ever been around in my life. And if you want to talk about a journalist like Capital J, I mean, he's it. Okay. I live in perpetual fear that Albert's going to call me and be like, how many sources was on that? He's unbelievable. And he's a great guy to work with. But in any event, look, he also is extremely tied into Ohio State. He went to school there.
That's true, yeah.
Like, if anything is going on at Ohio State, Albert is aware of it. And on that, I guess to get our daily Josh Simmons stuff in there.
Yeah.
Albert wrote like, hey, he's not going to be, like the thought is he won't be ready till August to play football. And he also went on the radio recently, I want to say last week, and was saying that when they did the medical rechecks in India, like the knee still was not, the patella was not right yet, which of course, makes sense considering he's not going to be ready till August. But
right,
man, I got to tell you, like, if they're going to take a tackle at 31, yeah, Connerly to me makes the most sense. To my knowledge, there are no questions about him health-wise. There are no questions about his makeup, and his maturity. None of that is true. None of it is true about Simmons. And so I think, look, if you're the Chiefs and you want to take a tackle, Connerly makes a lot of sense. Now, listen, he's a guy, for anyone who's unfamiliar with him, okay, comes out of Oregon, 3rd-team All-American last year, 1st-team All-Big Ten. He has started 28 games at left tackle over the last 2 years, so he's got decent wealth of experience. But, are you going to take him? His arm length, by the way, in case you're wondering, 33.5 inches.
Yep. A little short.
Little short, but longer than a lot of guys in this draft class. So, listen, because Simmons, I believe, is 33 flat, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing is there might have been something up with the combine measurement because everybody was longer at both the All-Star game and their pro day. So I think Connerly was one of the guys, just like Simmons was. Simmons was like 34.25, I think, is what he measured at his pro day. And I think Connerly was in the same boat where he measured a lot longer than what he was at the combine.
Okay.
It's odd. They might have had somebody new doing the arm length this year, but like it is very strange that at the combine, and it's hard for me to personally, it's hard for me to wrap my head around like why is the one spot that's supposed to be unbiased shorter than everyone else, but the other two spots that aren't are closer together than what the unbiased spot is. Like that's tough for me to decipher. But I mean, in the league, if you like a guy, you're just going to use whatever measurement fits your narrative, right?
Also,
so like
let's be real. What are the odds that Andy Reid showed up to the top 30 visit with a tape measure? It's like, stick your arm out. We're going to find out right now.
That'd be incredible.
Andy just showing up with like a Stanley 25-footer. Hey, we're gonna measure that arm right now.
A yardstick. He just has a couple yardsticks. He's like, hey, reach him out.
Andy wants to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only reason he's there too. Like after he measures the arms, he's like, all right. He just like makes like grunts noises and then just like walks out.
Going to Whataburger. Yeah, I don't care anymore. Lost the will to be here. Yeah, look, I just think at 31 there, as we've talked about, and I guess this is a fitting way to kind of put a bow on all this. Like they have a lot of options, but I will say this to everyone who's getting prepared for this draft. Understand that when you are picking where the Chiefs are picking, you are in a lot of ways at the mercy of everybody else because they could go into this saying they want an offensive tackle, and Connerly and Simmons could get drafted in the 20s, and then you're sitting there going, all right, well, we're not taking a tackle now. We're going another route. They could go into this thing really wanting a defensive tackle, and Walter Nolan could be off the board, and Derek Harmon, who has this like weird, mysterious medical issue apparently that I've been trying to nail down now for a little while too, and can't yet. It's like, who knows? Maybe he's gone. Maybe there's a medical issue that scares him off.
Yeah.
Kenneth Grant, like same deal. Not a medical issue, but like maybe they just, he's not there. Mm-hmm. And so maybe they go in and want a D tackle and they end up taking another position. Maybe their heart is completely set on a running back. And that's like, and so, but like, no matter how it shakes, a lot of this is just dependent upon who is on the board when they're picking. When you're picking 9th, you're going to have 3 or 4 guys on that board that you're like, all right. I remember the year that Chiefs picked Eric Berry at 5th.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew that year, like, okay, Bradford's 1, Sue and McCoy are 2 and 3. Like, it's going to be like Russell Okung or Berry or whoever. And you're like, all right, it was like Berry was going to be there. You pretty much knew that. When you're at 31, and here's another edge of this coin, okay? They could be sitting there at 31 and maybe they're at pick 23, 24 on the clock. And the Chiefs are sitting there going, oh my God, we thought this so-and-so was going to be off the board at 7.
Yeah.
That happened with McDuffie.
Right.
They thought McDuffie was going to be off the board as early as the 3rd pick in the draft. And then he wasn't. And he just kept falling and falling and falling. They finally are like, fine, take him. Move up and get him. You don't know. And to clarify, by the way, McDuffie, I think they thought, because if memory serves me right, Gardner was the 2nd overall pick in that draft. I think Stingley was number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think their impression was like, oh, he's going to go number 3, but like he's good enough to go number 3. And then but I think they thought he was going to be like a top 12 overall pick. And then he just kept falling and so on and so forth. And so, and by the way, that experience might embolden them. Like if they're sitting there and let's just live in a world where they're like, okay, I'm sorry, Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty's going to be a top 12 pick. And for whatever reason, he gets to like 17, 18. Do they, especially if they think Denver's going to take him, are they just like, screw it? Like, let's get ahead of Denver and just take the guy? Like, I don't think it's likely. but I also think that the draft can fall in a million different ways, and how that falls is going to very much dictate what they do. So it's not just about what the Chiefs want to do. It's about like the presentation of what's ahead of them.
It's going to be really interesting too. You realize when you think about it, the Chiefs do have that extra third round pick, the Tennessee Titans third round pick. They could even deal their own third round pick too, if they would like to package a deal to go up any higher if they do want to. But like we mentioned before, they don't have a ton of like late, like other like throw-in type picks, just because they have a 4th rounder and 2 7ths as we stand right now. Maybe they make more moves. I would really appreciate it. Well, I don't really know, because we're going to be live for like every pick. Might as well just be the last pick for the Chiefs to take Mr. Irrelevant. Why not? Why the hell not? But I just did a little bit of research about Josh Connerly. He measured at, I think you said 32 and a half or 30.
33 and a half.
33 and a half at the combine. And then as pro day, he was 34 and a quarter. Okay. I don't understand why we're getting all these discrepancies. And like the only thing that I can think of is there was somebody new measuring. Like, I don't understand why that's the only discrepancy that we have.
That, or at the pro day, there's a whole lot of home cooking because the guy.
I think that's combine. 100%. I think that's probably a part of it as well. And like, that's why it's hard for me to like want me to take the pro day numbers and like run with it.
All that stuff is such bullshit. I remember years ago when I was at the combine when Kyler Murray was coming out.
Yeah.
And the whole conversation was, is he 6 feet? Is he 6 feet? Is he 6 feet? All this crap.
He's not, by the way.
No. Okay. And he walks by everybody, and I'm like, okay, I'm 6'2". This guy's maybe 5'8", like 5'9" on a real good day. And they bring him around to measure him where nobody can see him, and they come back like 6 feet. And I'm like 6 feet. They put him on a box, like what? 6 feet. Like what the hell? Like what? I mean, it was just so insulting to anyone with a brain.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, he's 6 feet. Well, then I am 6'7". Okay. So like there's no world this dude is 6 feet tall. And I think there's a lot of, look, these agents know the drill. These colleges know the drill. Like if you don't measure with 34-inch arms, you're not the ideal arm length for a tackle. And if you don't measure at 33-inch arms, you got a big problem. I don't think it's any surprise. Will Campbell measured at 32 and 5/8 at the combine. Went back to LSU and magically was right at 33.
Right.
So, oh, look at that. He's got 33-inch arms now. But you know what the truth of it is? If you're good, you're good.
For sure.
We can sit here and talk. And look, an inch does matter in the NFL. It does.
100%.
All that stuff, man, when you're playing at that kind of a level, it matters. It sure does. But a guy was talking to Andrew Whitworth down at the Breakers, and he was saying how, he's like, look, man, if you don't have that arm length, then you do have to be better with your feet. And your first and second punch have got to be really good. I was talking to an NFC coach about this as well, and he was talking about the punch and everything else. But, you can play, but you have to be really, really good technically. And if you have 36-inch arms, you can get away with more crap. You just can't. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. So it'll be very interesting. But I would think that Albert, to go full circle on this one, yeah, I think Campbell, Membo, and Banks are the three guys. They're going to be top. I would imagine 15 picks.
Yeah, I think San Francisco is probably going to be looking for a tackle. Look at the teams up here.
Miami could certainly use one. The Bears could potentially use one.
The Jets, maybe, with the Jets being the conversation for a tackle.
Absolutely use one. There's a lot of teams.
The Bears shouldn't shy away from one.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's a lot of teams who could use one.
Yeah. So I do think that, I think both are kind of true. When I first thought of okay, tackles are going to go early. Maybe they don't go top 15 early, but they're going to go in the first round. Is what I think Albert's saying. Is tackles, the good tackles are going to be gone. Do not wait for day 2 until tackle. It's going to be interesting to see where the board falls for Kansas City, Matt, as we're kind of wrapping up the show here. I kind of want to get your final thoughts, final draft takes, as we have been beating this horse to the absolute ground. We have ridden this horse as far as it'll take us. It is about to pass out on the side of the road. Final thoughts on the 2025 NFL draft. Anything we didn't hit before we get out of here?
I mean, I don't know that Secretariat could have done enough to carry the day here.
That's a great point.
Now look, like I said, I think a lot of what the Chiefs do, which might make this uncomfortable for some people, is going to be dictated before they get on the clock. Like,
yep.
When you draft 31, it's not always about what you want. You got to kind of hope and wish and pray and have things fall your way a little bit. We'll see what happens. I would say, though, that I think day 2 is where the real value is in this draft. And the Chiefs are well positioned. They have 3 picks, and we talked about a way they could have 5. And at that point, Veach is just, I think it's that just whipping, just cools, just an entire pack of cools at one shot. I think that's where the value is. I think if you're the Chiefs, you need to walk out of this draft with a starter at D tackle, and you've got to walk out with some explosiveness on offense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm not going to kill them if they take a guy like Travion Henderson or Judkins at 31, or if Hampton were there. I am not at all going to get on it. If they were to take a guy like Luther Burden at 31,
sign me up.
I mean, look, man, you got it. You got to get explosive. You have to. You got to find more explosiveness in this offense. If they walk out with explosiveness on offense and a D tackle who they believe can play a big role this year, to me, that's a great draft. That is a really, really good draft. If they walk out of this with a tackle in round 1 that can't play for a year and a bunch of like fillers in different parts of the depth chart, I am not thrilled. Mm-hmm. They need to add guys that move the needle for this team. And I think that's going to be obviously the goal here as they go into Thursday night in Green Bay.
It's going to be exciting to see. I've been pretty tame when it comes to Luther Burden. As you guys know, I'm a Mizzou guy. I've been trying to I've been trying to almost hedge my emotions when it comes. Look, I'm a little bit more emotional when it comes to the Missouri Tigers than I am with the Kansas City Chiefs, just because I've been in the position of covering the Chiefs for a little bit longer than I've covered Mizzou. And like Mizzou was one of those teams where one of the first football teams that I was a fan of, right, was the 07 Missouri Tigers team that was very good. So they're like, Missouri is always one of the teams that I'm a little bit more fan emotional for. And I tell you what, I've been hedging my emotions about Luther Burden to the Kansas City Chiefs, just trying to say, oh, it doesn't make any sense. He's not a fit. Fuck that, Matt. Fuck it. I am ready. I am ready to be hurt. I want to see Luther Burden in Kansas City. I don't care. I don't care what the concerns are. Oh, he wants the ball a little bit more than other wide receivers. I don't give a rat's ass. Give him the damn ball. He's a good wide receiver. And you know who would be a good coach to deal with the guy that might have some quote unquote issues when it comes to personality and stuff and wanting the football? Andy Reid's probably a good guy to have coach him. Patrick Mahomes probably a good quarterback to give him to be able to rein him in. I think it'd be an all right situation for Luther Burden to be in, and the Chiefs should just say, fuck it, turn in Luther Burden to pick 31. We would have killed for Luther Burden. If you would have asked us, Matt, 6 months ago, hell, 8 months ago, we'd been like, Luther Burden would be super awesome if the Kansas City Chiefs got him. They're going to have the opportunity, more than likely, to have Luther Burden at 31. They shouldn't overthink it. They shouldn't overthink it. Take Luther Burden at 31, thrive, score, go back to scoring 50 a game. Make football fun again.
That's right. I am endorsing that statement. Look, yeah, it's a real problem that Luther Burden wants the ball when they've got to find a way to get Juju Smith-Schuster some targets.
God forbid.
I mean, because the last 2 years they've just been feeding guys who are so great that they can't find a target for Luther Burden.
They should want a guy that wants to football like Luther Burden.
I mean, have they watched them the last 2 years? Have they watched their own tape?
I don't give a rat's ass if he only plays in the slot. You can motion him. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's always a fun thing when people are like, they can't draft the slot guy. Rasheed plays in the slot. Like, what? Rasheed Rice is massive, but he can't do it outside. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
Rasheed Rice lined up in the backfield last year. Line him up in the backfield. I don't give a rat's ass.
like I have forever been the proponent of go 5 wide and just be like,
Yeah.
beat us. Do it. I have forever. If I was Andy Reid, I would absolutely play a game. I'd pick like the Bills game in the regular season where I don't really care if they lose it.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, we're going 5 wide every single play. And then I'd have it in McDermott's head during the playoffs, like, oh my God, are they going to do that again? Like, are they like, especially if it works and they just light up somebody? Like,
Yeah.
And I'd come out in the first play, even if I wasn't going to do it again, just 5 wide in the AFC title game, the first play. Just have them like, oh my God, they're doing it. And then just go to power run for like 50 straight plays. Just run duo. It's not stop the whole game.
With Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, here it comes. Just Carson Strong leading the way to glory.
Carson Strong.
We're going to hand off. We're going to play January ball.
Carson, hang on to the football. 2 hands. 4 hands. You got 4 of them?
Oh, no. Oh, God, no. Don't hand off to him. Just let him block.
Oh, no, okay. I think we're on the same page there. Okay,
Carson, don't worry about it, bud. You can't fumble it if you don't have it. You just stick your head in there and you get that head across the hip and you drive him out of the holes. No, we'll pick up 5 a clip here while everybody's waiting for us to go 5 wide because we did it 70 straight plays back in November.
And Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah. No, listen,
I mean,
Burden, I would take Burden. I've said that. I had Matt Miller on my podcast and I asked him, who's your guy? And he was like, Burden. I would take Luther Burden if he's on the board at 31 and you said to me, here are your options. Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly, Luther Burden, Kenneth Grant, and pick a running back. It's not Jetty. Okay, pick a guy. I'd be like, yeah, I'm taking Luther Burden. Because to me, that moves the needle more than Kenny Grant. It just does. I'm sorry. To me, your entire mindset should be if we take assuming you like the player, you got to like the player and you got to like the fit. I'm not saying, those are prerequisites.
Right.
But assuming you have that, and then you have 4 or 5 guys that fit that model and you're picking, who's the guy that would scare the piss out of the other team the most? Take that guy.
Yeah.
That's
You know how often, Matt, you and I did a 21 questions. Oh, Christ. I think it was the middle of the season.
Sure.
And we did a 21 questions together. And there's a clip that I think about where you asked me, would you be worried if Nick Bolton signed with the Cincinnati Bengals? And I said, no. And you said, that's the point. And I think about that a lot because when I think about, would I be worried if Luther Burden was on the Cincinnati Bengals? Probably. I probably would. The Buffalo Bills? Yeah. The Ravens? Yeah. So I think the Kansas City Chiefs should draft a guy who is just a good football player and not overthink this. They should not overthink this at all.
That philosophy for me transfers to all when they're on offense and they have the ball, my entire thought process every place, what is the thing that the other team doesn't want you to do the most? If it's 3rd and 7, or actually better example, if it's 3rd and 3, do they want you to hand off to Kareem Hunt or have Mahomes throw it? Gee, I wonder what that answer is.
Right.
Right. Scared to death of Mahomes dropping back. Every time the Chiefs hand the ball off, the defensive coordinator's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Or every time that Sky Moore is getting a target, they're like, oh, dodge that bullet.
Yeah.
You know what they don't want? Xavier Worthy on a post route. Okay, throw that, or Rashee Rice on some unstoppable 8-yard slant, which is going to body some guy and then truck the safety.
Yeah.
To me, I remember, and I'll give you, what we can close here. The guy to me who is the best at that the Chiefs have ever had, is Spagnuolo. Spagnuolo sits there. I swear to God, he thinks about that question every time he makes a play call. I think we're like kindred Italian spirits. Where Spagnuolo's sitting there, I will forever believe he felt that before that 4th and 5 call against the Bills. What do they not want? Well, 3 guys just brazenly coming off the short side of the field. He is all about I'm going to put you in the most uncomfortable spot imaginable. Beat me.
Yeah.
He's great at it. And I think that's part of the reason in huge spots he's just been awesome. Because a lot of times he even goes back to that Super Bowl against the Niners where he was just we're blitzing. I don't care. I am going to force you to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
And to me, that is so they're sitting there at 31, and it's well, they could take a nose tackle, or they could take this guy, or they could take a receiver who scares a bit Jesus out of you every time he has the football. Take that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I was cool with Xavier Worthy last year.
Yeah.
That guy scares the hell out of people. Like, and I can honestly say, in real time, I got asked the next day. It was after the second and third rounds. It was at night. And I was on some radio spot, and they were like, who would you rather have, Worthy, Leggett, or Keon Coleman? I was like, Worthy. Because when that guy's got the ball in his hands, he's terrifying.
Yeah.
Anytime he has the ball in his hands, he might score. And Keon Coleman, look, he's big, and that's fine, but he runs a 4.6, and he turns like a semi-truck. Like, I would rather have the guy who, I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is a one-of-one freak show. But, like, when that guy's the ball in his hands, you're like, oh, my God. That guy, like, he is liable at any point to just gone 80 yards.
Right.
Yeah, if I can get Luther Burden free in space, I'd rather have that than Kenneth Grant, who might be great, but, like, is basically being asked to just stop the run between the guards. Like, I'd rather have Luther Burden.
There we go. I'm fine. I'm glad I finally spoke my truth about Luther Burden. I was tired of being too.
Times now.
Yeah. Look, we don't have any more time. I literally wait till the very end of the podcast to do it too. And I think that's going to do it for this week's edition of That Football Show. We got the hockey talk out of the way before the podcast started, so you guys are welcome. This was a very heavy football show leading into the draft. The Leafs scored an overtime winner, and I didn't even say anything on the podcast.
I was going to mention it to you. I saw that the Senators tied it up late, and I was like, "Oh, here we go with the Leafs."
Yeah,
Catastrophic defeat at home. Right in Ottawa, down 3-1 when they get back. But yeah,
they did.
The Royals won too.
Royals pulled it out against a 4-win team. Who would have thought? Everything's looking up in KC.
Did all they could to give it away in the ninth.
They tried so hard.
But we're like, nah, we're not the Rockies. So.
God bless. Well, that's going to do it for That Football Show. We'll be live Thursday, Friday, Saturday here at KC Sports Network. Even Sunday we'll be live as well, recapping every pick of the not every pick in the draft, but every Chiefs pick. Holy cow. Every
Pick 142. Punter to the Falcons.
That show would be so goddamn long. If we did every single pick, 57 picks? Is that what it is?
Yes. At some point, somebody would just crack and throw themselves into traffic. Yeah,
if you do 1 minute a pick, that's 257 minutes. No way.
It's like 4 hours and change.
Yeah, we're not doing that. So sorry, guys. If you want that, I guess go talk to a tree. That's going to do it for That Football Show. Matt and I will be back next Wednesday to talk about everything going on in football. We could branch out to college football too if you wanted to. There's some crazy stuff going on with rule changes and stuff like that. Maybe in this offseason.
It's a big trade that went down in college football.
It's a big trade that did go down in college football.
So I'd see that happen.
It was wild. Did you see
Arkansas as a player to be named? Essentially, it was just you know how devastating that's got to be. You go home to your girlfriend at the dorm, you're like, "Hey, babe, listen, I got traded. Pig Suey. Like, how long did it take her to break up with him? 5 seconds? 3?
Instantly? Yeah. I mean, she's like, well, sorry.
Like, oh, USC? No, Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, we got to talk.
I don't think this is right.
This just doesn't, this is a time in my life where, I want new experiences.
It's, right person, wrong time.
Yeah, it's not you, it's me.
Right.
Really, it's your location because you're about to go to Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Everyone on the podcast knows my feelings about Arkansas and Fayetteville in particular. All right, well, we got to get out of here because the Knights are about to play, and I got to go watch that. But that's enough for That Football Show here this week. For Matt Verderame, I'm Tucker Franklin. Thank you to Ben Holiday, Bottled and Bond and Holiday Distillery. Go support the all juice benefit that we got going on right now with the raffle. Go to givebutter.com/KCSN draft. Go check that out in memory of Therese Paler, good friend there, and the all juice team. All right, that's going to do it. We will talk to you guys on the other side of the 2025 NFL draft. Take care.